You have seen this video. Slow piano. A father lifting a small girl onto his shoulders. And then a number on the screen. Daughters without involved fathers are 7 times more likely to something. 63% of something else. I went looking for where those numbers came from. I want to tell you what I found, because it is worse than I expected. And then I want to tell you about the one study in this whole area that was actually randomized, because it found something real, and it is not what the videos claim. 2 things, where the numbers came from, and what happens when someone finally runs a proper trial. Let's start with the statistics, because they travel further than anything else here. There is a specific cluster you have seen. 63% of youth suicides, 85% of children with behavioral disorders, 71% of high school dropouts, 90% of runaways. Those 4 numbers appear together, in that order, on thousands of pages. They are usually credited to a government agency, sometimes to the Census Bureau. They trace back to an email, 1994. The person who compiled them later acknowledged the figures were faulty. The National Fatherhood Initiative, an organization whose entire purpose is advocating for father involvement, has quietly removed all 4 from its own statistics page. I want to be precise about what that means. It does not mean fathers don't matter. It means those specific numbers are not evidence of anything, and anyone still putting them on screen either has not checked or has and kept going. I could not find a traceable original source for a single father-daughter percentage claim I tested. Not one. So let's go to the actual research. The most cited idea in this space is rough-and-tumble play, wrestling, chasing, the kind of loud physical play fathers are said to do more of. In 2017, Jennifer StGeorge and Emily Freeman published a review and meta-analysis in the Infant Mental Health Journal. 16 studies, 1,521 father-child pairs. Here is their own sentence describing what they found. The meta-analysis found weak to moderate population effects for links between father-child physical play and child aggression, social competence, emotional skills, and self-regulation. Weak to moderate, those are their words, not my summary. And there is something else about that paper that almost never gets mentioned. Look at the title. It is about the measurement of rough-and-tumble play. The paper is not really an announcement that wrestling works. It is an argument that the field cannot measure this well enough yet. The authors call it a promise, not a finding, a promise. Then in 2021, Robinson, StGeorge, and Freeman went wider. 39 publications, 246 separate outcomes, children from birth to 10. And here is the thing you need to sit with. The findings point in both directions. In some studies, more rough-and-tumble play went with more physical aggression, particularly when fathers were less directive during the play. In others, the same kind of play went with less anger and less aggression. Same behavior, opposite results. And the review's own resolution is that it is not enough to simply do it. It has to be a certain quality of interaction, sharing the winning and the losing, sharing who is in charge. Which, if you think about it, is a much less shareable message than wrestle with your kids. One more limitation the authors name themselves. The majority of this research has been done in Western, individualist populations, and most of it is parents describing their own behavior on a questionnaire. Now the bigger claim, the one underneath all of this, that fathers do something developmentally distinct from mothers, that mothers provide comfort and security, and fathers open the child to the world. That idea has a name and an author. It is called the activation relationship, proposed by Daniel Paquette in 2004. And I want to be very careful here, because this is exactly where these videos go wrong. Paquette's paper says, in its own aim, that it is proposing a theorization. It is a theory paper. It is a well-argued, heavily cited, genuinely interesting theory paper. It is not a finding, and a theory becoming famous is not the same thing as a theory being confirmed. So did anyone test it? Yes, twice, and the 2 tests disagree with each other. In 2019, Brenda Volling and colleagues studied 195 two-parent families with 12-month-olds. They found the activation pattern in 58.3% of fathers and in 49% of mothers. So it was more common in fathers, modestly, not uniquely. Roughly half of mothers did the supposedly paternal thing too. That same study found two more things that rarely get repeated. Fathers scored lower than mothers on sensitivity, on positive regard, and on stimulation of development, and were more detached. And the parenting profiles were unrelated to attachment security. That is a direct quote. Then in 2020, a larger study, 672 families, more racially and economically diverse, sharing an author with the first one, ran it again. In that sample, activation parenting showed up in about 67% of mothers and about 37% of fathers. Read that again. In the bigger, more diverse sample, mothers showed the distinctly paternal pattern nearly twice as often as fathers did. And a 2021 review of this whole literature reports that the frequency and quality of activation parenting did not differ much by child age or gender. Which means the father-daughter specificity, the entire emotional premise of the genre, is not just unproven. It is contradicted by the field's own review. Here is where I have to be honest about the limits of everything I have just told you. Every study I have described is a snapshot. Researchers measured how families were already behaving and looked for patterns. Which means we cannot separate the father from the family he is in. Men who wrestle with their kids differ in a dozen other ways. And easier children are easier to play with. The arrow could run backwards. I went looking specifically for the designs that can settle this. Twin studies, sibling comparisons, anything genetically informed on rough-and-tumble play. There are none, not a small number, none that I could find. The rigorous designs in this neighborhood have only ever studied father absence, not father involvement. And even those disagree with each other. One team using children of twins concluded selection rather than causation. Another using genetic scores concluded the effects were independent and additive. So when someone tells you the research proves what fathers do to their daughters, the honest answer is that the study design that could prove it has not been run. Except in one place, and this is the part worth staying for. In 2023, Emily Pollack and colleagues published a randomized controlled trial in developmental psychology, a 9-session program for fathers and daughters in Newcastle, Australia. 158 fathers, 193 daughters, average age 8. Randomized, waitlist control, the real thing. And it worked. Daughters' social and emotional well-being improved, with effect sizes of 0.51 to 0.64. That is a solid, respectable effect. Improved from the father's perspective, and from the mother's perspective. The daughter's own self-reported self-esteem did not change. That is the sentence I keep coming back to. The adults saw a different child. The child did not report being different. And then something happened that I want to show you, because it is the clearest example of a thing I try to teach on this channel. The same research team ran a 12-month follow-up, 257 fathers, bigger, longer, and it reported daughters' self-esteem improving 3 times the odds, highly significant. The exact outcome that was null in their randomized trial. So what changed? The design. The follow-up study was, in the author's own words, a single-arm, non-randomized pre-post study. There was no control group. The authors say so themselves and name it as a limitation and tell readers to interpret with caution. They did nothing wrong. They reported it plainly. But look at the shape of it. Same program, same team. The effect on the girl's own self-esteem appeared exactly when the comparison group disappeared. That is not a scandal. That is what a control group is for. It is the thing standing between a real effect and a hopeful one, and when you remove it, hope wins by default. So what is actually left standing? A structured 9-session father-daughter program produced a real, measured improvement in how the parents saw their daughter and in the father-daughter relationship and in fathering warmth. Randomized, controlled, published. That is not nothing. That is a lot. The girl's own self-esteem did not move in 3 months. Maybe 3 months is short. Maybe self-esteem is not what shifts first. We don't know, and I would rather say we don't know. Rough-and-tumble play might matter. The pooled effects are weak to moderate and point both ways, and quality seems to matter more than quantity. Fathers doing something categorically different from mothers is a theory, not a finding, and the larger of the two tests pointed the other way. And the percentages in those videos should be treated as decoration. They are not evidence. If you are a father wondering whether showing up matters, that is not the question the research is stuck on. What it is stuck on is proving how much and in which direction and for whom. Those are different problems, and only one of them is about you. That is what this channel is for. One claim, traced to where it actually came from, including the parts that weaken it. If we get one wrong, tell us. We will fix it in public with our name on the correction. Every study named in this video is listed in the description.